Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here in Los Angeles, California. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you guys joining us as we're here to talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all sorts of good stuff. I'm, of course, joined once again by Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing, sir?
John, it's always a pleasure to be here. And this morning, I'm even more excited because Netflix has announced the cast for their Green Eggs and Ham show.
Oh, well, that's what we've been waiting for. That's what we've been waiting on pins and needles for this whole time.
Green Eggs and Ham, Sam I Am. You know, it's important. It's one of the great touchstones of Western culture, after all. And Michael Douglas apparently is going to be in it.
Nice. And, of course, someone who loves her Green Eggs and Ham is, of course, Ashley Whalen. Ashley, how you doing?
Hello. Good morning. I'm good. I did my Monday night trivia last night, and 2 of the answers were from knowledge of the show or just general knowledge. It was Lego Movie 2 and The Punisher. So I killed it last night.
So I hope you got those ones, by the way. I hope you got those ones.
You'd be kicked off the show forever.
All right, guys. Listen, we got a bunch of things to talk about, a whole bunch of main topics that we need to discuss here today. But before we get to any of that stuff, we've got to go right off the top with this. Now, of course, we know that Ben Affleck is no longer Batman. We also know that Matt Reeves has a new Batman movie coming and is on the way, and it should be here, whatever. I believe that the Batman has already been cast. But last night, reports started to furiously fly around the interwebs that Armie Hammer was in final negotiations to play the new Batman. Now, on one hand, there are a couple reasons here, guys, why this would make sense. Number one, Armie Hammer was already cast to play Batman back in the day for George Miller's, scrapped Justice League project. So they've done that. And look, there's a history of that at Warner Brothers. Henry Cavill was the runner-up, or pretty much the runner-up, to Brandon Routh to play Superman in Superman Returns. He didn't get it, and then later they went back to Henry Cavill and they used him. So this would be consistent if Armie Hammer were to play Batman. This would be consistent with precedent that we've seen out of Warner Brothers before. The second reason that this thing sort of makes sense is that Armie Hammer's a great actor. I really like him as an actor quite a bit. He's had some awards buzz and stuff like that. There's some films he's been in that I thought he should have gotten awards buzz for. So there's all that. Third, the dude has the physical stature of a Batman. He just does. Now, I stand about 6 feet tall, okay? And Armie Hammer, and this is from a weird angle. You don't get a full sense of this, of me beside Armie towers over me. Like his official listed height, and he is a big, muscular dude. His official listed height is 6'5". I say he's at least 6'6", maybe a little bit more, but the dude just towers over me. So he's this big physical dude. So he's got a history with the Batman character. He's a terrific, respected actor. He's been seen around the set of some DCEU movies before, and he certainly is the physical stature of it. Now, there are a couple reasons why I shooed this report away at first. Number one was, I always tell you guys, go to the source. The source for this story comes from a site called Revenge of the Fans. Now, the Revenge of the Fans isn't some little hobby site done from part-time by a student, okay? It's created and run by a guy who used to work with IGN, I believe Movie Phone, Latino Reviews, things like that. And while they don't have like what you would call a stellar track record of nailing scoops and all that kind of stuff, they're on the ball sometimes they're not. So there's that. My main reason for not buying into it, though, was the notion that he was in final negotiations. Because you guys know, I believe the Batman's already been cast. I believe whatever else the studio says, whatever PR they put out, whatever comes out, I believe the Batman is already cast and has been cast for a while. So that was one of the reasons why I kind of put this aside. Now, 5 minutes. So I had my doubts that this was true. 5 minutes, though, before we started this show today, Robert, you pointed out to me that this new thing on Yahoo just came out. Armie Hammer himself spoke to Yahoo about this. And what is it that Armie Hammer said?
Armie Hammer said to Yahoo UK, he shot down the report and telling Yahoo UK, no one who can actually give me the job has asked me if I'm interested. I don't even know if they're done. Are they still working on a script? So that's what he said.
Well, okay, so then let me ask you, Rob, let's say that the report was true. Let's say there's some validity to the report. Let's just act in the theoretical here for a second. How would you, as a film fan, as a comic book fan, as a comic book movie fan, if this were to come out and say it was true, how would you respond to the idea of an Armie Hammer as Batman?
I love the idea of Armie Hammer as Batman. I've had a man crush on Armie Hammer since he played the Winklevoss twins in The Social Network. I mean, I love his voice. There's something about he speaks. He has this very authoritative voice, and I just when he says, I'm 6'5", I weigh 220, and there's two of me.
And there's two of me.
I mean, that's one of the great. He's so good in that role. And then I loved him. Warner Brothers has already dealt with him as an actor playing Ilya Kuryakin in Man from Uncle.
So good in that.
He was so good in that. And by the way, talk
Superman.
about
with Superman, by the way, with Henry Cavill.
Physicality. Yeah, and he wore those bespoke 60s outfits. I mean, he looks badass, and I can't imagine someone better. I mean, he's at least got 10 or 15 years of Batman movies in him. So I'm all about Armie Hammer.
Yeah, I mean, I think there certainly is, which is, I think, why a lot of people initially bought into this report that went out there that he was it, because on a lot of levels, it does make a lot of sense. You're right. You brought up a great point there, Robert, because not only talented, they've wanted him as Batman before, he's got the physicality for it, he's got experience with Warner Brothers, he's done well with Warner Brothers, but the point that you brought up is that here is a guy that could be your Batman for the next 10, 11, 12 years if you want to. And I think all those things went into making that a very believable story when it first kind of came out. Actually, let me ask you, you've probably seen a bunch of stuff with Armie Hammer. Like, what do you think about Armie as an actor in general?
I think he's a great actor. I was saying earlier, like, Call Me by Your Name is one of my favorite films. And I really see him as Bruce Wayne too, because I think he has this like charming, debonair sophistication just about him. He kind of exudes this essence of just like upper class. So I really do see him fitting in nicely with the franchise. So we'll see.
There's something else I was thinking about. I could see him sliding into the DCEU and replacing Ben Affleck if need be. I mean, I know they wanted to play a younger version of Batman, but he could also play an older version of Batman, the post-Affleck version of Batman in a continuation of the DC universe. And I think that's sort of important, because if they had cast somebody who's like 22 as a young Bruce Wayne, I don't think that would have been believable. But I think they could actually do it. They've been trying. Armie Hammer was the Lone Ranger, for Gore Verbinski, and they tried to make him that. I know, but there's a lot about that movie that movie is not Wild Wild West. It's better than that, and I think they've been trying to make Armie Hammer, this leading man that can carry a franchise for a long time, and the guy deserves it because he's put in the work, man.
Oh,
Give him the Batman.
And look, when we think of Armie Hammer, it's understandable. When we think of Armie Hammer, we often think of the guy from Social Network. Or, maybe we think of Lone Ranger. But the fact of the matter is, this is a guy who has almost quietly gone about the business of amassing a very impressive career.
Yeah.
Like, when you're looking at, first of all, he was wonderful and On the Basis of Sex. I hated Sorry to Bother You, but between Lakeith Stanfield and him, I thought he was great. He was one of the shining moments in that with him and Lakeith. Call Me By Your Name, of course, he got a lot of awards buzz for Call Me By Your Name. I liked Free Fire. Nocturnal Animals, Birth of a Nation, the aforementioned The Man from U.N.C.L.E. I love The Man from U.N.C.L.E. That is a movie that should have done financially better. Then there was The Lone Ranger. A little bit of a misfire, but whatever. They put him in that. Mirror Mirror, J. Edgar, and of course, where a lot of us first took notice of him was The Social Network. And by the way, that stuff in The Social Network was done so well that I just thought they got twins to play the twins. I didn't even realize till like a few days after I saw the movie that I was like, wait a minute, that was one guy playing both roles?
Yeah.
And he was great. And again, I love that line you mentioned. I'm 6'5", 220 pounds, and there's two of me. It's like, it's probably my favorite line in the entire thing. But just to restate here, Armie Hammer is now saying that these reports are false, not happening. A bunch of other online film journalists right now are saying that their sources are telling them this is not true, this is false, which once again, guys, goes all the way back to what, like I'm always telling you, when these stories come out, talk about it, but check to see where the source is. Where's the source coming from? And I'll be fair. I don't think Revenge of the Fans is a site that you just instantly dismiss. I don't think you just instantly dismiss it, but you also got to take into consideration it's not like it's Variety or the Hollywood Reporter or Deadline, so you got to take it with a grain of salt. And now we know the reports aren't true. But I'm with you, Rob. If it comes out and they say it's doing it, I'm all for it.
Can I float something else? Now this is my Hollywood conspiracy tinfoil hat.
Here we go.
If you are at an impasse in negotiations with your lead talent, all you have to do is float a rumor out there and watch the whisper stream of the internet suddenly go, we would love to see Armie Hammer's Batman. Wouldn't that be great? And then the agent can be like, yeah, my client wants $1 million more, or whatever his perk package is. Let's give him a bigger trailer or whatever it is they want. It's a way to, and I'm not saying that's what's going on here. I'm just saying if I was Armie Hammer's agent or agency, I'd certainly float a rumor that he was in contention and go back to Warner Brothers and go, wow, you just had 187,000 mentions on Twitter in the last 12 hours about this. Give my client more money.
Rob, be my agent and start some rumors. Come on.
I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but in this day and age of social media manipulation, come on, that's how you, instead of being a Russian hacker, I'm a CAA hacker or a William Morris hacker. Yeah. And I'm going to get myself some cheddar.
But that goes back to the same, again, no one's told me this. This is not insider information. This is just me as a fan speculating. The big thing that I wasn't quite buying into this report was because I still believe it's already done. I believe they've cast it. I believe it's done. They did it with Ben Affleck. He was cast 6 months before they ever announced it. I believe that's the case here. Again, I'm not saying anybody's told me that. I'm not saying
I think he was too, though. Yeah, it's Armie Hammer, and this is what his agency's doing.
And you think he's already cast, and they're just putting out smoke there right now. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see.
You guys have any other ideas of who it could be? I mean, you probably hate that question, John.
I do hate that question, but look, I do know this. We know for a fact. All right, we know for a fact. And I was the first guy to tell you about this, but every other outlet has confirmed it. That Matt Reeves was meeting with Jake Gyllenhaal months and months and months ago, and there was a period of time when that Jake Gyllenhaal was Matt Reeves's pick. He was Matt Reeves's choice. But it didn't work out. And Jake Gyllenhaal took a pass on it. And he's going to be Mysterio in the upcoming Spider-Man movie, which does not preclude him from being in a DC movie. We've seen several examples of actors play in both cinemas, and that's fine. But other than that, I mean, I don't know. You know me, Rob. Like, I'm just like, I don't care. Remember the game, A Barrel of Monkeys? I don't care which monkey you pull out of the barrel. I just care that you pick from the right barrel. And as long as they go to the barrel of a talented performer who can carry a franchise, as long as they go to that type of a barrel, then I'm fine with whoever they pick. But I will say Armie Hammer would have been a name that I would have supported.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, guys. With that down, let's go on to now our main topics of the day. How do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. You guys select them by emailing me your topics and questions anytime, 24/7, to john@thejohncampeashow.com. That's john@thejohncampeashow.com. Make sure you put that word topic in the subject line. And as always, guys, keep those emails to 90 words or less. With that down, Ashley, what is our first email of the day?
The first one is from Emerson Williams. With both Jessica Jones and Punisher being canceled this week, do you think that the news will hurt the viewership of Jessica Jones Season 3 more than the already steep drop in the viewers of the Marvel Netflix show would have? Or do you think there may be an uptick for The Last Hurrah? Do you think it was a bad idea to announce this before the show airs? What do you think?
Well, talking about the worst kept secret in Hollywood, surprise, surprise, Punisher and Jessica Jones gets canceled. Look, we all knew this was coming. The only surprise to me was that they waited this long to announce the Punisher one. Well, there's two surprises here for me, Rob. One, they waited this long to announce Punisher because we expected like the week after Punisher Season 2 came out, they would make the announcement. They waited this long. That's surprise number one. Surprise number two is that they seem to break their pattern here, and they've announced the cancellation of Jessica Jones before Jessica Jones season 3 has even aired. That to me is a little bit of a surprise. Now, granted, you can make validly the argument that, well, we all knew Jessica Jones was getting canceled, so it's not like they're doing anything. Still, I thought they could have let us know. The question then becomes, do I think them letting us know that Jessica Jones is canceled now, is that going to negatively impact season 3? I don't think so. If anything, I would actually guess the opposite. I would actually guess that this is going to draw a little bit more attention to it and go, hey, this is the final season of Jessica Jones, everybody. And that might actually draw more attention to it and actually get more eyeballs on it. So I think it might actually work out to the benefit of this particular season of Jessica Jones, announcing that the thing has been canceled. Rob, how do you see this? Like, first of all, are you surprised about the timing of this? Did you start to think maybe they'll keep one of these shows? And what do you think this is going to do to Jessica Jones season 3?
Well, no, we all expected this. This is, it's the old adage. In other news, water is wet. I just think that this was an inevitability, and it was going to come sooner probably rather than later. And, they had to do it sometime. And here's the thing. Netflix also knows most of the people in the world are not following the entertainment news the way we here and our viewers on the John Campea Show do.
True.
Most people don't care. They're gonna see Jessica Jones drop. Oh, great! It's season 3. The people that enjoy Daredevil, the people that enjoy Punisher, the people that enjoy Luke Cage, they're gonna tune in. And it doesn't make, I think, a bit of difference. I mean, 3 seasons on Netflix is a pretty good run. So no one's gonna be like, oh, I've enjoyed Jessica Jones, but damn them for canceling it. They're gonna tune in. They're gonna watch. And it's look. I thought it was really interesting that the Marvel showrunner for Netflix, Jeff Loeb, wrote a letter to the fans that went online yesterday where he says, knowing Marvel, who knows if you might not see these characters again someday.
Yeah, he said, Marvel, who says you won't see these characters again? Right. And it's their Marvel characters. And sure, they probably have some kind of an exclusive deal through 2020 or something that runs out, but then they'll bring him back. And who wouldn't tune in? I mean, all they're going to do is bolster the popularity of these characters when they put them on Disney Plus. It's going to be, and probably not as R-rated or PG-rated as a form, but you never know. I actually think, I don't think we're going to see the Daredevil TV show return. I don't think we're going to see the Punisher show return. Again, no insider information. I'm just guessing as a fan here.
Sure.
I think Marvel, and this would be consistent with what Loeb said, I think Marvel plans on bringing Daredevil into the MCU. Not Charlie Cox's Daredevil, but the character Daredevil. I believe they're planning on bringing Daredevil into the MCU, maybe a Punisher. Although Punisher is difficult to do with an R-rated thing, maybe Punisher becomes a part of what Bob Iger was talking about, like with the Deadpool franchise, that will have a new banner that can handle R-rated stuff, whatever. I just don't think we're going to see these shows revived. I think we'll see the characters more. I think we'll see the characters again, but I think it might be different incarnations of them. So actually, I don't know if you had a chance. Did you watch any of Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Defenders, Iron Fist? Hopefully not Iron Fist. But did you have a chance to watch any of these shows?
No, none. But I'm really dying to see Jessica Jones. And actually, this sounds crazy, but now that it is canceled, I feel like it's more... it's easier to just watch 3 seasons of something rather than if it was like 10 seasons, I'd be like, I'd be putting it off a little bit more. But now I feel like I'll watch it.
Yeah, it feels very manageable now. Now it feels like I could just watch this entire series. All right, let's move on to the next email. What's next?
All right, next up is from Movie Games. It says, hi, John, Robert, and Ashley. Hope y'all are doing well. So with Star Wars Episode 9 wrapping up without a title, do you think this is a case of the Avengers Endgame? Will they'll release the title with the trailer? Thanks, and have a good one.
That's a good question, Rob. Like, when do you think let's forget about this specific dates here, but do you think we're not actually going to get a title? Because sometimes we've seen titles announced and then later release dates, or we've seen posters, then titles, and we've seen trailers and then but with Avengers Endgame, we just got the title with the trailer. How do you think Star Wars is going to handle that?
I think they're going to handle it at Star Wars Celebration. Come on. Yeah, they're going to announce. I mean, they love to make Star Wars Celebration an event for the fans, and they'll probably do a live streaming broadcast. I love when they do that. I get all caught up when they do these live streaming broadcasts. They trot out the cast. They trot out all the creators involved, and they do these roundtable conversations, and they show a trailer. and then they announce something. And I think they're very much going to do that. Star Wars Celebration's next month, right?
April.
Yeah. So along with Game of Thrones and along with Avengers Endgame and along with a rich, another cornucopia of geek nirvana, we are going to get a trailer and we're going to get the title of episode 9. It'll be fine when we get the title for episode 9. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think honestly, I think the bigger news here is, of course, that they've announced that shooting is now done.
Right.
And, both J.J. Abrams and John Boyega put out this picture showing the cast that I guess is on the last day of filming the series. Are there now? As a
Look
side
where they
note,
are, by the way,
where are they?
I don't know, but that's like a desert environment of some kind.
Yeah, but we've seen multiple planets in Star Wars with desert environments, so I don't know if I'm going to read too much into that right now. But here's what is interesting, Rob, is that John Boyega, J.J. Abrams put up this picture saying, so honored. Principal photography is now done on Star Wars Episode 9. So thankful for this cast and crew and blah, blah, blah. And he put up this picture. Now, Boyega also put up the picture, but he also added this. He goes, that's a wrap for Episode 9 and the closing of a great chapter in my life. Closing? Does that mean that's the final Star Wars film for Boyega? Because we heard Kathleen Kennedy say before that they're going to do future movies with Poe, Finn, Rey, all that type of stuff. Not necessarily all together, but maybe, who knows? That almost sounded like that. But then again, would Star Wars let him put out a tweet like that if it was saying that? So I don't know. I'm a little bit torn. But listen, I got communicated to by somebody who told me that there was a short list of possible titles for Star Wars Episode 9. Okay?
Was it a Bothan spy?
It was a Bothan spy. Many Bothans died to bring us this information, Rob. So here's the thing. I don't buy it. I don't buy that this is the short list. But for the sake of conversation, here's the short list that I got given, which again, let me be clear, I do not buy. But this is the list that was given to me. And just for the sake of conversation, the ones were, they said this was the short list: Star Wars Legacy of the Force, Star Wars Reign of the Force, Star Wars Victory, Star Wars Ashes of the Republic, Star Wars Galaxy of the Brave, and then I added in one just myself called Star Wars The Return of Luke Skywalker. Just to be clear, that's one I put in myself. Again, Rob, I don't buy into any of these particularly. And by the way, noticeable by its absence from that list was Balance of the Force. Because remember, that's a popular theory going around right now, that Balance of the Force is going to be the name of it. And maybe it will be. But do any of these particular titles, Legacy of the Force, Reign of the Force, Victory, Ashes of the Republic, Galaxy of the Brave, do any of these stand out to you as being particularly good or okay,
No.
or you could see as a title? None, huh?
I think they're all lame, except I do like Reign of the Force. I think that's got some kind of, the problem is, it's not a problem, but if you think about Revenge of the Sith, Return of the Jedi, there's a great encapsulation of each of the trilogies. The prequel trilogy is sort of summed up by Revenge of the Sith. The Return of the Jedi is this triumphant title for the end of the original trilogy. So you need something. I mean, I guess you could say it. In my mind, in my way of thinking, they'll probably go with Episode 9 Victory, because that's stupid and dumb, and pretty much that's about the lamest title you can come up with, because there's no such thing as an entire victory. I mean, who life goes on. But I like Reign of the Force. I think because if balance is brought to the Force, then the Force can then reign. Reign has it's got a mythical quality to it. It's got a royal quality to it. And I think that's kind of cool. I would kind of dig that if Reign of the Force was the final title.
I'll tell you what, there are two that I think are okay. And one is Star Wars Victory. I think Star Wars Victory is actually okay. I kind of like that because that could be a theme of the film. So I'm into that. The other one I actually kind of like is Ashes of the Republic. I kind of dig that one. That actually feels...
It's a downer though, dude.
Or is it? Or is it? Depending on the actual construct of the movie and how they handle the movie, is it a downer?
Well,
is
if the Phoenix... No, you're right. I mean, something could rise from those ashes.
That's exactly what I'm talking about as well, is that we're talking about something that comes back and rises and returns. Like from the ashes comes whatever. Reign of the Force sounds like a novel name. Like it sounds like a name they'd put on one of the Star Wars novels. You know what I'm saying? As well as, what was the other one? The what of the Force? The Victory of the Force? No, that wasn't Victory.
Galaxy of the Brave.
Victory of the Force sounds like an Alphaville
Legacy
song
of
from
Legacy of the
1984.
Force. Again, Legacy of the Force sounds like an older novel name. Galaxy of the Brave. I'll tell you what, that does sound like a Star Wars title to me, but it sounds more like a animated thing that they do. Star Wars,
toy
Galaxy
line.
of the Brave. Yeah, or a toy line. Yeah, to me.
Yeah.
So I don't think any of these are actually going to be it. And that's how it turns out 90% of the time, is that it's usually never the options that are being suggested. But again, I'd be all for Star Wars, The Return of Luke Skywalker. Make it happen,
Did
JJ.
you guys like Force Awakens? I can't remember.
I did.
I did too.
I did. Yeah, I liked
right.
the title when I first heard it. I thought the title was quite good, actually. I liked it. So, yeah, there was that. All right,
Rob
let's
hates
move
it all.
on now.
I
Yeah,
don't hate
Rob.
it all. I'm a huge Star Wars fanatic. I just want Star Wars to be great again. Make Star Wars great again.
Well, The
We'll
Force
get a hat.
Awakens was great. I also thought Rogue One was great. Oh, I loved Rogue One. Anyway,
Rogue One's
okay.
cool stuff.
Yeah. All right. What's our next email today?
Thomas Linton, one of my favorite all-time movies is Office Space, and I almost choked on my coffee when I read that the movie turns 20 years old this week. 20! Just wondering what your thoughts on the movie are and some of your favorite moments from it.
I could not believe it when I read that it
Ugh.
turns 20. It's funny. It was just about a month or so ago, maybe a little bit more, that Ann and I were hanging out one night. It's like, what do we do tonight? Blah, blah, blah. And then somehow in the conversation, I think I quoted Office Space. And she's like, oh, what's that from? Oh, that's from Office Space. Remember? She goes, oh, no, I've never actually seen it. And I'm like,
Oh no.
what? And we stopped everything and we watched Office Space.
Good.
I love that movie. I cannot believe it has turned 20. Rob, first of all, your reaction to it turning 20. Like, what? That was 20 years ago, but also favorite moments from Office Space.
Well, I have to tell you, whenever I go to Comic-Con, I always look around and in my own mind, I look at what people are wearing, buttons and accoutrements, and I always think in my mind that they have great flair. The flair they're wearing is,
They got 50 pieces of flair.
They got their flair on, and that is something that is ingrained in my psyche. When I even think that about people, like you go to a nice dinner party or something, and you've got a woman wearing a beautiful brooch, or a guy's got a tie clip on, or some great cufflinks. To me, it's all flair, and that was drilled into me by
What
Office
about
Space.
what about you, Ash? What's like your favorite moments from Office Space that you remember?
There's so many, but the interview scenes are my favorite. So, and then they're interviewing everybody when they're like doing the remanagement. And then one of the best lines is she's just like, what is it you say you do here?
Yeah.
I think that's one of the best scenes of the movie.
Yeah, I kind of tripped this one a little bit earlier, but mine has got to be the printer. Like I just remember laughing myself sick with the music that was playing with it and the slow-mo and all that kind of stuff. It was just so perfectly done. The other that I remember just laughing myself sick over, because I was juvenile, but was when the lead guy finds out that Jennifer Aniston, what he thought, had dated his boss. And he has this mental image of him having sex with her.
Oh, yeah.
Holding his coffee going, yeah, that's great. And the whole bit. And I just remember, and the other one, again, because I'm juvenile, but when he comes in and his roommate is over, not his roommate, sorry, his next door neighbor is over. I can't remember the actor's name, but he was wonderful in it. And he turns to him and goes, because he's thinking he might get $1 million. He goes, man, what would you do if you had $1 million? And without skipping a beat, he's like, 2 chicks at once. It's like, it was just the way it flowed. There was so much of that in the movie, and the cast was fantastic and incredible. And man, I just can't believe that movie turned 20 years old. Guys, if you have not seen Office Space, get it on your repertoire. Go watch that movie and see how many comedies that have come afterwards have been influenced by it. Like 100%. All right. Let's move on to the next email today.
So
What's
good.
next?
It's like, I'm going to need you to come in on a Sunday.
And do the John Campea Show.
Mitch Sittler. Hi, John. Been a fairly regular viewer since AMC days. 2019 is a year that seems to have more high-profile animated films than usual. I know the Lego Movie 2 has already come out, and honestly, I found it a bit disappointing. So with that one down, which animated films should we be looking forward to, do you think?
Yeah, there are actually a bunch of, like he was pointing out, look, we
Mhm.
get a handful of animated movies every year, but it feels like this year there's a particularly large crop of them, and a large crop of them that have potential to be pretty big. At least the potential to be pretty big. So when we look down here, like you already mentioned, we've already seen the Lego Movie 2, right? We still have How to Train Your Dragon, the final chapter in this series. By the way, guys, I have seen How to Train Your Dragon 3. It's fantastic. And the last 15 minutes of it are the best 15 minutes of anything they've had in the How to Train Your Dragon series. It's wonderful. Check it out. We got that coming out February 22nd. Secret Lives of Pets 2, without, what's the name of the actor they fired from the thing? Why am I suddenly blanking on the comedian's name? Do you guys remember?
I don't know.
Louis C.K. Louis C.K. Yes.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Minus Louis C.K. They've got the voice of Ratatouille in there now, so he's going to be doing the lead voice. That coming out on June 7th. By the way, I really like Secret Life of Pets. I thought that one was really good. We got, of course, Toy Story 4 on June 21st, Frozen 2, which is obviously going to join the $1 Billion Club most likely on November 22nd. We've got this one that's looking pretty intriguing to me, with starring the voices of Will Smith and Tom Holland, called Spies in Disguise. That looks intriguing, September 13th. We got Ugly Dolls, which I thought would be a throwaway one, and then I saw the trailer. I thought, oh, this could actually be kind of cute. Then we've got The Missing Link, which I think looks terrible, but we talked about that the other day. And I almost forgot that Angry Birds 2 is coming out in August as well. Why? I'm not sure. Sometimes the filmmakers are about a could've and not about the should've. But anyway, we got Angry Birds 2 coming out as well. Rob, throwing this over to you. You're looking at this list. Which are the ones that you're looking forward to the most when you see this list of upcoming movies?
Well, number one's Toy Story 4.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about a series that has never failed to disappoint. I mean, I think I see Toy Story as probably the greatest animated franchise of all time, probably. And to see everybody coming back for to see Woody and Buzz going on a last hurrah, I'm all into that. Frozen 2, I guess we all just don't want to let it go. I'll keep saying that forever. That's going to make a ton of money. And you know what's great about Frozen 2 and the whole Frozen thing is that a whole generation of women have grown up under this shadow. It's kind of like growing up, if you read comics in the 80s, we are all of us living in the shadow of Dr. Manhattan. Right. Well, there's an entire generation of boys, too, who are living in the shadow of Frozen. And, my girlfriend Elizabeth is a huge fan of Tangled, the movie Tangled.
Oh, I like Tangled a lot.
Tangled's good. But Frozen, come on. That's like Star Wars for some people. So it's good we're getting the Empire Strikes Back of the Frozen franchise, or that's what at least looks like to me. And then Spies in Disguise. I love any spy, as a James Bond fan, bring on the spy movie. I love it. I hope it's, The Incredibles had a little bit of 60s spy feel to it, along with the Fantastic Four elements. But I mean, if Spies in Disguise is sort of a James Bond throwback, count me in.
And what about you, Ash? Like, you're looking at this list, which ones are standing out to you the most that you want to see?
Toy Story 4. I mean,
yeah, that's got to be the favorite, right?
Yeah, it's my favorite. Yeah, I'm just looking forward to that the most. So,
all right, let's move on to the final email of the day.
All right, last one is from Jindra V. It's hard to believe we're only a couple of months away from Avengers Endgame finally coming. There are a lot of people theorizing about how the consequences of Infinity War get undone, time travel, the gauntlet, and stuff like that. The big question I find myself wondering about is who kills Thanos? There are a lot of characters with big motives to do it. So if Thanos dies in Endgame, who do you think is the one that does it?
All right, so you're right. There have been a whole ton of theorizing about a whole bunch of different topics when it comes to Avengers Endgame, not the least of which is, how do the events of Infinity War get undone? Is it the snap gets undone? Do they create an alternate reality? Is time travel involved? There's all these big questions going on. And by the way, it's not just a question of who kills Thanos. I believe there's still a question about even if Thanos dies and if that becomes a big thing in the movie or not. That being said, if we're going to go on the assumption, okay, let's assume for a second that Thanos does meet his end in this. Let's say he plays at least a certain size of a role in the film, and he actually finally meets his end at somebody else's hands. Well, whose hands does he fall to? Because there's a number of, like, if this was a murder mystery, who killed Thanos, there's a lot of people with motive. There's a lot of people with motive in this mystery movie here. And so I want to present to you who I believe would be the 8 most likely people if Thanos does die, and we're just going to take that as a granted for a moment, okay, just for the sake of the discussion. If Thanos does die, who wipes him out? I'm going to say there's 8 potentials here, Rob. One, the obvious one is Thanos. Is Thor. The obvious one is Thor. Because really, Avengers Infinity War was about Thanos and Thor. And it starts with Thanos and Thor. It ends with Thanos and Thor. Then, I told you you'd die for that. And, and of course, then we see in the trailer that it looks like Thor has traveled to the world that Thanos is retired on, right? So that's got to lend in there. Also, a big potential guy is Iron Man. I mean, Iron Man talked all throughout Infinity War. Thanos has been in my head since the attack on New York, blah, blah. Thanos knew his name. They had that big fight at the end. It left him there to die. Well, first of all, he ran him through and killed him. Almost killed him. And then left him there to die. Hulk went toe-to-toe with Thanos. First straight up loss that the Hulk ever took in a fight. All that kind of stuff. And there's drama going on with Hulk right now. That could lead to that. Nebula is an obvious one. Suffering at the hands of Thanos her whole life. Having body pieces ripped off and replaced with technology. She came this close, Thanos said, to killing him on his own ship. She snuck onto his ship. Came that close to killing him. And of course, then he tortured her and killed her sister. Big motives there. Speaking of the death of the sister, Star-Lord. Star-Lord is part Celestial. So, I mean, there's an argument to be made. Remember, he's one of the guys who held an Infinity Stone in his hand. He held the Power Stone in his hand. So there's stuff for that. Speaking of which, Gamora. Gamora didn't die in the snap. Don't forget that. She died in a ritualistic sacrifice for the Soul Stone, which some people believe might lead to something else. I'm not saying it's likely, but I think if you're going to create a list of usual suspects, I think Gamora has to be considered one of your front runners. Also an obvious one, Captain Marvel. She's making her debut in the MCU here in the Captain Marvel movie. Kevin Feige has said this character is going to be the most powerful character in the MCU. They might do a little bit of setting up with Thanos in the Captain Marvel movie. She's got to be taken into consideration. And then our dark horse in this, our big dark horse in this, would be Hawkeye. And those are the eyes of a hurt man, ladies and gentlemen. Those are the eyes of a man in pain. He lost his family from Thor. That could be enough. And by the way,
Thanos lost
sorry, I keep interchanging Thanos and Thor.
It's tough.
He lost his family at the hands of the Thanos' snap, we're assuming. And remember, this wouldn't be the first time in a comic book story where some low-powered archer takes out a supreme super being. Back in the Parallax stuff. Do you remember this, Rob? Back during the Parallax stuff when Green Lantern just went nuts and all this kind of stuff. It was Green Arrow. It was Oliver Queen that ultimately planted an arrow in his heart in the comic series. So
after he turned off the sun.
Yes. So I believe these are our usual suspects. Rob, let me throw it over to you. Who would you say are your top 1 or 2 out of this list of usual suspects? And is there anybody you think I may have left off this list that should be considered one of the suspects?
Well, I don't think Thanos is going to die because, he is a Titan. Yeah. And I think they're going to use Thanos. If there's an Eternals movie, and they're going to use Thanos, I think, as a bridging device into dealing more with the Eternals and more with the Celestials. That's just a guess. But I think if they're going to have somebody kill Thanos, I think it's going to be, it would be, Nebula would be my guess. Because we actually saw what he did to her. And, it's very mythic having a daughter come back and slay her father.
Yep.
In a way. But I don't think, here's the thing. If one of these characters were to kill Thanos, especially Thor or Stark, what does that say about them as characters? Like, even though Thanos eliminated half the universe, once you've essentially murdered someone, I mean, it's hard to bring a character back from that unless you're going to play out I know you're supposed to kill the villain in a movie like Die Hard. You can throw Hans Gruber off the roof of the Nakatomi Plaza, and it's no big deal. But these are superheroes, that embody the Avengers are supposed to embody all that is good about sentient beings throughout the universe. Whereas Nebula can get away with it. People aren't going to be like, oh. But then again, if Gamora doesn't come back, Star-Lord has a good reason because he too is a half Celestial, as you pointed out. I don't think Captain Marvel would kill Thanos because they just introduced her. And I don't see her doing that unless it's, I don't know. I just don't think any of these characters are really going to do it. Thanos isn't going to die. I think we've got a dark horse villain that we know nothing about.
I want them to do like a Murder on the Orient Express situation. Just
who killed Thanos? Who did it? But
I
Rob,
watched that movie.
What?
Rob, I think you're missing something here. I think you're missing something important with this whole notion that, but these are heroes. Do you know how many, if you go back and watch the Iron Man movies, do you know what the body count is at the hands of Tony Stark?
I
know how many
know.
people he's killed? Just go back and watch a Civil War, even the opening of Civil War, in that opening scene in Sokovia. You know how many people the Avengers straight up kill? And then,
Did they kill him?
Oh yeah. Yeah, you go back and watch that opening. They killed a number of them. And let's not forget Infinity War. In the great speech, one of the best dramatic moments in the history of the MCU, Thor sitting down and he's got Rocket Raccoon there, and Thor says, I am 1,500 years old and I've killed twice as many.
Yeah,
and he goes, he's killed thousands of fools across. Like, I say thee nay, all that kind of stuff. I am, by the way, not closed off to your way of thinking that Thanos doesn't die in the movie. Like I totally believe that is a viable possibility that we're going to get an Endgame, that Thanos does not die. I'm completely open that might be the case. I'm just saying that if he was going to die, I'm going to go Nebula.
Yeah, me too. I have to go that way.
I think if it's gonna be any of them, it's gonna be Nebula. But the one big piece of evidence, though, Robert, that goes for the Thor thing is that shot that you pointed out in the trailer. That it looked like that shot from behind of Thor. That he's on the same world that Thanos went to.
What if? Well, sorry, I was going to say.
Go ahead.
What if? I talked earlier a couple shows back about how maybe the movie opens with Thor and Thanos talking.
Yep.
What if the movie opened with Thor after that conversation burying Stormbreaker in Thanos' head? And he's okay with it. Like Thor straight up kills Thanos in the opening scene of the movie. Then the audience is their jaws are going to be on the floor, just like when Thanos killed Loki. And everyone's going to be like, where the fuck do we go next?
Yeah.
Like, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
I mean, if that's the way to open a movie. You want, and I wouldn't put it past these guys. And
Nope.
Thanos just allows it. Thanos is like, hey man, I did what I was here to do. What am I going to? I'm going to smell the flowers. I've been here for a month and I'm a little tired of it. And Thor's like, I'm going to go for the headshot. He's like, do your best. And Thor just straight up kills Thanos and then the titles come on. Avengers Endgame. I'd make that movie.
Yeah, because Thanos would be like, hey, I already saved the universe. Go ahead. In his own. But let me ask you, Ash, if you had this big list of, usual suspects here in front of you, if you had to guess, assuming for a minute that Thanos dies, if he's going to die, which one would you say is going to be the one to do it?
I thought it was going to be a Nebula Gamora combo. Like if Gamora comes back and then Nebula and then they confront him at the same time and it ends in a battle and they both kill him. I think that would be like the most emotional way to go.
And now I heard somebody mentioned to me on Twitter, but John, the Russo said the gauntlet is permanently damaged. And without the gauntlet, Thanos isn't a threat anymore. So they don't need to kill him. It's like, not a threat. Before he got the gauntlet, Nebula and Gamora were talking stories about how we went around the galaxy wiping out half the population planet by planet by planet. Just because he don't have a working gauntlet doesn't mean he ain't a threat. Mm-hmm. He's still the most powerful being in the universe, according to the lore there. Anyway, all right, guys. Well, what do you guys say? Just assuming for a moment, if Thanos dies, who do you think is going to be the one that ultimately does the deed and takes him out? Jump down to the comment section below. I want to know what you guys think about that. Okay, guys, with all that out of the way, we're going to take some time now and take some live questions. Here on the John Campea Show, we do it live every day, Monday through Friday, in case you're watching this after the fact. We do it at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and we always save some time for some live questions. So, Ashley, what live questions are waiting for us today?
All right, first super chat is Topher Rocks. Hey guys, I know Scott Adkins isn't the best actor, but man, it would be great to see some Raid 1 and 2 martial arts minus the blood in Batman film.
Oh, I'm not going to deny that would be cool to have some of his martial arts, but you have to start with a good actor. If you're going to ask somebody to carry a movie and do a good movie, otherwise you're just talking about a fan film on YouTube. If all you're looking for is great, like the great martial arts and great action, that's a piece of the puzzle. But if you don't start with a good actor, I think you're really in trouble. And I like seeing Scott Adkins pop up in things. I do. But also, if I'm going to be honest, do I think he can carry an iconic character and carry a franchise? Does he have that level of thespian talent? I don't think so. I'm open to being wrong, but I just don't think he does. Rob, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't think so either. I mean, you need somebody who can be as charismatic as Bruce Wayne as they can be as Batman. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. You know how much I love The Rad and The Rad 2 even radder.
Yep.
They're two of my favorite action martial arts films of the last 2 decades, and I would love to see that. But, you know, you got to have an actor who can carry that role.
All right, let's move on. What's next?
Eric Saul, along with the Batman rumor casting, John Hamm pops up quite a bit. I could see him more as a Harvey Dent Two-Face than a Batman.
Yeah, of course, the big problem with the John Hamm thing is that he's 47 years old.
Right.
I think the dude can do no wrong. I love John Hamm, but they've been saying they want to go younger. If that's the case, then you don't start by going out and getting a 47-year-old actor to start. That's kind of going against it. They want to go younger, then they got to go younger. So, but hey, don't get me wrong. If they were to announce tomorrow that John Hamm was Batman, I'd be all for it. The dude's amazing. All right, what's next?
Sebastian, please admit Aquaman owns Superman and Batman now.
No, he completely does not. Aquaman does not own Superman or Batman. The Aquaman movie wouldn't even exist if it wasn't for Superman and Batman movies laying the foundation. And so no, just absolutely no. But I did like the movie quite a bit. Rob, I think you even liked it more than I did, Rob, didn't you?
Yeah, and it was wacky fun that took me back to the heady days of my childhood watching Jason and the Argonauts.
It's true. It's really true. Okay, what's next?
Sebastian again. Blue Will Smith is a no-go. Robin Williams owns it.
Well, Robin Williams does own it, but that doesn't mean you can't have somebody else come in and do a new incarnation of it. So, if you don't like the Will Smith incarnation that we're seeing so far, and remember, we've only seen 5 seconds of it, but if you don't, that's fine. But let's leave Robin Williams out of it. Robin Williams isn't here. No, let's just all agree right now, no one's going to live up to Robin Williams. Fine. You can still do a different incarnation to it and bring different life to it. So there's no point in bringing up Robin Williams in it because we all agree there is only one Robin Williams. We know that. So we're moving on, though. So let's keep focused on that. All right, what's next?
Count Dooku. Do you think Borat could be made today?
I do. I do think you could do Borat today the way that they did it. I mean, it was done in such a way that it was just, my God, that film is brilliant. I love it. It doesn't rewatch as well as it does on a first viewing, but I thought it was great. But yes, I do believe today, done the same way, I believe you can do that movie today. Yes, absolutely. All right, what's next?
Did I miss your MA trailer review? Christopher Benson.
Oh, no. So what happened was the Ma trailer came up just before we were about to start a show, right. So it's too late. And then by the next day, it's over a day old, the news, and there was a bunch of other things that we needed to talk about, so we kind of bypassed over the Ma trailer review. I'll just say this. I thought it looked great. I thought it looked creepy.
Me too.
Octavia Spencer, I'll just say it straight up. Octavia Spencer's the man. Octavia Spencer is the man. She is awesome. I love her in anything. She can do comedy, drama, horror. It doesn't matter. Put her in there. I'm excited for it. So, yeah, I thought the trailer looked great. What about you, Rob?
I loved it. And I love the fact it's really just a cautionary tale about why you should never go to a convenience store and have a stranger buy you a Sixer.
Good point.
Because, man, that looks like it doesn't end well.
No, sir. All right, what's next?
Catholic Jack, John, I have severe anxiety that if I buy a seat for opening day of a Blockbuster, someone ignorant will be in my seat and cause a commotion. Advice?
Don't worry about it at all. You have a better chance of, I've often gotten into these discussions about why preassigned seating is so much better than not having preassigned seating. And one of the fallacies that people will bring up is, well, what happens though, John, if you get to the theater and someone's sitting in your seat and they refuse to get out of your seat? Well, first of all, I've never seen that happen. I have seen it happen in movie theaters before where somebody shows up. It's never happened to me personally, but I've seen it. Somebody shows up and then has to talk to somebody and say, oh, sir, I think you're in my seat. And they show them their ticket and they go, oh, yeah, I'm in the wrong row. And people move. I have never seen an example once. I'm not saying you haven't seen an example of this, but I have personally never seen an example even once of somebody saying, oh, but you're my seat and here's my ticket, and go, well, too bad. I'm staying. I've never seen that happen. But let's say for a second that it does happen 1 out of 10 million times. Well, then you just go, okay, no problem. You go and find the usher, say, here's my ticket, this is my seat, and let the usher go and remove the person. But it's really not an issue. It's a 1 in a 10 million thing of happening. Guys, have you guys ever seen anything like that happen in a theater where like somebody just outright refused to get out of a seat that clearly belonged to somebody else?
No. And I'll tell you, yeah, and you've got an entire theater full of people who also have their assigned seats. They're going to be on your side. Mm-hmm. Everyone's going to turn around and give that dude or that girl the stink eye. And they're going to be shamed publicly.
That person has a seat waiting for them. Like, they say, oh, it's not like they don't have a seat. It's like, oh, yeah, okay, so they have a seat waiting for them, so I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah.
It's just me. All right, what's next?
Eric Sowell, in Joker, Arthur Joker kills the Wayne family, which leads to Bruce becoming Batman in the Reeves movies. Just a dumb theory I thought I made up and realized, shit, they did that in Batman 89.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened in there. But you know what? I've caught myself doing that too. I've caught myself going, ooh, what if they did this, this, and this? And then somebody look at me like I'm an idiot, which happens, and goes, John, you realize that's exactly what they did in part 3. I'm like, oh, yeah. No, I don't know. I mean, they set it up that Bruce's dad is going to be a key character in the Joker movie. Now, whether or not Joker kills him or not, that seems to make sense, but I haven't seen anything that definitively says that's what's going to happen. But, I mean, it is possible. I mean, where do you go with this Joker movie? Because, obviously, the one big thing that they're going to break with continuity here, Robert, is that this Joker isn't created by the Batman. This Joker isn't a guy who's dropped into a vat of acid and it comes out. It's a different origin story. There is no Batman here. There's a very young Bruce Wayne, but that's it. So I don't know. What kind of direction do you think they could go with this?
Well, I think they're gonna turn him more into a person that society creates the Joker. I mean, our culture. I mean, isn't it? It would be really interesting if they delve into the fact that we now live in this very reactionary time where people's lives can be destroyed by one mistake one afternoon on Twitter, and what if our protagonist, what if something uniquely ironic happens to him and it's a function of our society today, and it's all of us that collectively create the Joker somehow. Rather than Batman, and it's society's collective actions that create the ultimate chaos in the Joker himself. Like the chickens has come home to roost, y'all, with the Joker. So it'd be interesting. I don't know. I have no clue what they're doing, but if you did something metaphoric like that, it could be really interesting.
All right, what's next?
All right. Liked Happy Death Day 2 a lot. Jessica Roth was great. I liked the different approach it took, but then I went back to the same. Must stay by mid-credit scene.
Yeah, everybody's telling me I got to see the mid-credit scene. I've not had a chance to go see it yet tonight. Anne's got one of her classes tonight, so I'm probably going to walk over to the AMC Burbank 16 later tonight and go check that out. I love Jessica Roth in this role. I really like the original. I cannot wait to see the second one. But yes, thank you, everybody, for letting me know about there being post-credit scenes, because I never would have stayed. I never would have guessed there would be mid-credit scenes or anything. So as soon as that movie ended tonight, I would have just got up and left. So thank you for letting me know about that. Now I know to stay. All right, what's next?
Sebastian, I don't agree with you that Captain Marvel had no introduction pre this movie. The post-credit scene got all Marvel nerds a big hard-on for her coming.
No.
Well, that's a line.
Yeah, but that's absolutely wrong. That movie did not. First of all, it was a post-credit scene, and she didn't see her. You didn't hear her, and nobody who doesn't already know who Captain Marvel is had any idea what that beeper was. So to try to compare that, Sebastian, to something like Captain America Civil War, where you get a half-hour screen time of Black Panther T'Challa and you set up his story from Wakanda, Prince, his father killed, he's got these powers, he's got this unbreakable suit, he's got all these abilities, and blah, 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 and seeking vengeance, and where they're going to Aquaman, where they talk about where he's from, and you see him in action, you see him doing all this stuff, or Wonder Woman and Batman versus Superman, setting up that I'm centuries old, I gave up on the thing, a man came back in, fought alongside Batman and Superman, blah, blah, blah. To try to say that, oh, they introduced Captain Marvel too? No, they didn't. No, they didn't. And of the 5% of people who were in those theaters who knew what that symbol was, they already all knew that a Captain Marvel movie was coming anyway. So no, under no circumstances, there is no way you can spin this to say that she was introduced. They gave a reference with a symbol on a beeper that nobody knew what it meant, amongst the average movie-going audience. But did they meet her? No. Did they know anything about her? No.
Half the audience was like, what's a beeper?
Yeah. I was like, is that a beeper? I think I saw Grandpa with one of those once. But anyway, no, they did not introduce any more than in Captain America Winter Soldier, there's that scene on the roof where the Hydra agent says, Stephen Strange. Does that mean Stephen Strange was introduced in the MCU in that movie? No, we didn't get introduced to Stephen Strange until the Doctor Strange movie. So, yeah, he did not introduce him at that point. All right, what's next?
All right, next is JCL Productions. If the Oscars do one more stupid thing, I will begin to think it's all planned to make people tune in from the constant controversy. I mean, they can't be this dumb.
At some point, you cannot help but wonder, are they doing this on purpose? Because, I mean, at some point you do things that are so, to use your word, dumb. I'm sorry, the best popular film category is one of the stupidest things I've ever heard. And the fact that they got to the point that they are actually going to implement it seems ridiculous. If you're going to start a system where you're going to leave some categories out, then you leave out the short topic ones. You leave out best short documentary or best live action, which they did. You don't start with the pillars of filmmaking like cinematography and editing. So, I mean, at some point, even I start to suspect. Now, I don't think this is the case, but even I have to admit I've stopped and wondered of come on, this has got to be on purpose. This has got to be on purpose. I don't know, Rob, how do you attribute all this? How do you see this? What explains this?
Well, I think you've got people at the top who are making these decisions, and they have the best of intentions. They're thinking, how can we get more eyeballs on the Oscar telecast? And they're coming from that place, which, by the way, I think is wrong. They should think about it in terms of how can we best get eyeballs on our show while not compromising what our show at its very core is. And I think, it's a problem that's not just in the Oscar higher ups or the people that run the Academy. It's a problem we have across our entire civilization now, where the almighty dollar has instead of working, profit look has always been a big thing. But when you're selling a product, you want to make sure that you maximize your profits and not compromise the product that you're selling, because ultimately that will lead to your company's demise. You want to make sure that your product maintains its high quality. And by getting rid of that decision, you're forgetting what your mission statement is. And if you're the governing body of the Academy, you better make sure that the Academy comes first, because if the Academy goes away, you're not going to have any profit at all, and there will be no Oscars because nobody will care. And I think that they got schooled. They learned their lesson, at least I hope. I mean, never underestimate the stupidity of governing bodies, but I think they learned their lesson.
All right, what's next?
Sebastian, follow up. They all had the O face via the pager.
Oh, well, of that, there's no doubt. Yes, for those of us who knew what Captain Marvel was, when that pager did come up, we were all like, oh, but you had 1/10 of us in the theater going, oh, And then and the other 9 out of 10 people going, what? And like Robert,
Right.
like you said, what's a pager? What is that? And what is this? The 16-bit, 8-bit really color thing on it? They had no idea, but it is. Those of us who knew, Sebastian, you're right. Those of us who knew, we were like, yeah, and wondering how does this all tie in? All right, what's next?
Haskell 420. Hey gang, so Paltrow's done as Pepper Potts, but said she'll do cameos if asked, and Netflix Motley Crue movie The Dirt trailer debuts. Thoughts on both?
Well, you know the rules, Haskell. We take one question per thing sent in. With the Pepper Potts stuff, I mean, it's just like anything else and anybody else. I mean, like she'll come back. She's done her thing now, but she will come back, so that's fine. But Rob, I know you mentioned the fact that the Dirt trailer had dropped, and you're kind of excited about that.
I was reading the Armie Hammer quote to you when I noticed it had dropped, and I know some people that I work with that have been trying to get that movie made for a very long time, and it's so great to see it finally done. I have yet to watch a trailer, but you know what? Motley Crue. I can't wait.
All right, what's next?
Ben Elman. Hey Rob, I want to get an Enterprise model and was wondering where you get your models from.
Where do you get models from, Rob?
CultTVMan.com. Go to CultTVMan.com. It's my favorite model kit retailer. They specialize in Star Trek and Star Wars. They have all of your model kit needs. Go there. Tell Steve Iverson, who runs Cult TV Man, that I sent you and that he should give me a discount.
All right, what's next?
Again from Ben. Also, I'm 18 and I have a huge DVD and Blu-ray collection. I understand your fear of the end of physical media.
I embrace the end of physical media. I welcome the fact that physical media is dying, and it does. But you know what? I take that back because I know there are people like my friend Robert who really do treasure it, and for that, I hope it sticks around. It has nothing to do with me, and I don't buy the stuff. But if somebody else likes it, I want it to be there for them. But you're right; it is going away. We are going to get to a point where the studios are going to go, okay, so we could sell this movie on Google Play for $15. Or we could sell it in Walmart for $19 and have to make the physical discs, make the physical packaging, physically ship this thing around the world, deal with splitting the revenues with, transportation, with the retailer themselves, and blah, 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 blah. And it's just not something the studios are excited to be a part of long term. The digital thing is just a much better option for them. At some point, it's going to go away. I don't care because I haven't bought physical media in like 7 years, but it does suck for a lot of people who love collecting this stuff.
John,
like Rob,
everything you said is 100% accurate. And as much as I'm loath to admit, I mean, I'm a futurist. I love the future. I love the new technologies that we're getting. My only fear is that so much of our legacy might be lost because it's not seen as being a moneymaker. All the biggest moneymakers are the latest releases. And as every year goes by, that is another year of all the great movies and television, and our entire entertainment legacy is 1 year back in the rearview mirror, and it's less and less that people care about it. And I just hope that our legacy, our rich legacy of the last 100 years of cinema is preserved.
I agree. 100% agree. That needs to be a priority. All right, what's next?
Yes, such a good point. Dropkick Aggie, F your mercy.
What's that from?
I don't know, but it sounds great to me.
I mean, it sounds like something that would have been said or could have been said in like Infinity War, because Thanos says, "I call it mercy," and then "F your mercies." But I don't think that was said there, so I'm not quite sure what the reference is.
Maybe that's what Thor says before he buries Stormbreaker in Thanos' head.
Maybe I was committing a mercy. F your mercy. All right, what's next?
Paul, I watched the episode of your show this weekend where you talked about all-time fave movie openings. My all-time favorite is Indiana Jones 3 with River Phoenix.
What a great opening to a movie. What a wonderful opening to a movie. You know what? True story. You guys know I go to the John Williams in concert show every year that he does at the Hollywood Bowl, the maestro of the movies, and he conducts his things. And every year he has a special guest. This year his special guest was Steven Spielberg. And Steven Spielberg came out, and he was out for about 20 minutes. And one of the things they did was talking about this opening music to Indiana Jones and what's the third one called again?
The Last Crusade.
The Last Crusade, which is my favorite one. I shouldn't freeze on that name. He talks about the opening. He goes, here's an example, Steven said, about how just vital music is to a scene. So right now, we're going to watch that opening scene, with no music. And Steven Spielberg plays like the 7-minute opening with no music to it. And it's like dull. It's dull. And then he goes, now you're going to see the true power of John Williams, says Steven Spielberg. And then they played the clip again with the score that John Williams wrote for it. And it changes the experience entirely. And anyway, that was just a neat little story about that. Did you like that opening to that film?
Did I?
Yeah.
You know, I did like it, but here's the thing. I didn't believe that every quality that Indiana Jones possessed happened to him in one afternoon. You know, it's like, here's how I got the scar on my chin. Here's why I'm scared of snakes, you know, blah, 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 blah. And I just thought while it was charming and fun, I think it sort of reduced the character into simplistic terms. But that's just me. You know, it's still a delightful opening. And by the way, I do have a six scale action figure made by Japan's Medicom of River Phoenix as a young Indiana Jones.
Cool.
Nice. All right, what's next?
Stubble McShave. I think it's possible that Kronos will play a key role in Endgame and maybe set up as a villain for the next phase in the MCU.
I don't know that Kevin Feige's into using Endgame as setting up stuff for future films. I think he's seeing Endgame as the closing chapter of a book. I think this is his closing chapter of what has been the first initial 10 years of the MCU. I don't know that he's going to just use this as a stepping stone to launch other stuff. I don't know that. It's possible. But there's been everything from Kang to Kronos to there's been a lot of different people. And of course, Kronos is going to be tied into the whole time travel theory and everything. So I don't know, Rob, I know you believe there's going to be another big baddie introduced in this film. And I'm not so sure. But you think, what do you think the Kronos is a possibility?
I think, well, it is if they're maybe it really depends how far they're going to go into the whole Eternal Celestials thing. I mean, I think, like you said, I don't know if that'll be the big bad of this movie, but I think there's going to be a second element in the mix because there has to be. Because if you know Thanos won, and you can't really, like, he's not into fighting anymore. Like you'd have to then, if you're going to go back in time and establish him as another threat, he's already won. So turning back time, if you go back, and I keep going back to the All Good Things episode, the final episode of Next Generation that Kevin Feige cited in an interview, that is an explanation for where they got the idea for Endgame. And in that, it was Picard and company that had to solve their own problem. Q sort of instigated it, but it was Picard. I mean, it was Picard's fault, really. And I keep going back to that, but I just see them because another movie means another villain. You know, they Thanos won, so it would be anticlimactic to just have them go up against him again. Oh, this time he wins.
Well, I mean, the one thing you can say though is that sometimes the antagonist of a movie isn't always a character. Sometimes the antagonist of a movie is environment. Sometimes the antagonist of a movie is circumstances. It could theoretically be that it is the reality in which the world now lives in post-snap becomes ultimately the antagonist that the Avengers are trying to fight against.
That's a great point, dude.
You know, with or without another main character coming around to be I'm the new bad guy.
Right.
Which, but again, hey, to your point, Robert, I mean, Feige has been pretty good. When he wants to keep secrets, he keeps secrets. And I will not fall out of my chair in shock at all if we get into Endgame and a Kang appears or any other numbers of characters that become the main antagonist to it. But I just don't think we should sell short the idea that environment could become the antagonist of the film. But I don't know. We'll see. All right, what's next?
Dropkick Aggie, been a fan since Force Awakens coverage. Thanks.
Oh, thanks a lot, man. We appreciate you being along. I remember, that was a great time. Star Wars was back. I love that movie. It was a really good time. Thanks for coming along for the ride, man. I appreciate that. All right, what's next?
Angry Irish Benjamin. Ever seen The Frozen Ground, starring Nicolas Cage and John Cusack? The bad guy, a respected family man who's secretly a serial killer rapist. Reminds me of Ted Bundy so much, it's not even funny.
Yeah, I do remember the film, and I remember liking the film. And it's one of those like ones where, by the way, both Nicolas Cage and John Cusack are guys that I think carry around like a nuclear reactor full of potential of what they're capable of. And both of them, it seems like, have gotten trapped into doing these more obscure, smaller, sometimes straight to home video kinds of movies. But yeah, I do remember that one. I remember liking it. Rob, do you ever have a chance to see Frozen Ground?
I did, and I really liked it. You know, as far as serial killer, I have this sort of, I love serial killer movies, and there's a couple in my mind that people haven't seen, and Frozen Ground is one of them. And I loved it, actually, and it is very much inspired by Ted Bundy. And there's another great one directed by Russell Mulcahy, who directed Highlander. And it's a Seven ripoff that stars Christopher Lambert, but it's called Resurrection. And if you guys ever get a chance to find Resurrection, I highly recommend it.
All right. What's next?
I'm writing down the Frozen Ground right now, so I don't forget.
Yeah, check that one out.
Okay, Curtis Lopez. When do you enjoy Christopher Walken most? When he's terrific or absolutely odd?
Well, I mean, who says that those two things are mutually exclusive?
Exactly.
Sometimes he is terrific when he is absolutely odd. He's one of these movie stars where I think a lot of people, when they think back, and maybe this is good or maybe this is bad, when they think back of Christopher Walken, they're going to think of Cowbell. I think Cowbell's going to be one of the things we think about. I'm absolutely going to think about him in The Jungle Book. I'm absolutely going to think about him in that was like one of the most magical segments of a movie for me that year. Was that when Louis was singing the song and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, you're going to talk about Pulp Fiction. Obviously, you're going to talk about. I mean, there's what's the one he was in again where it was the philosophical question, Rob, was time travel, and the whole question about if you can go back and kill Hitler when he was a baby, do you do it? I'm trying to. It's killing me what the name of that one was. But anyway. But yes, I love him. Look, he's always absolutely odd, and he's always fantastic. What are some of your, or one of your favorite Christopher Nolan things, or Christopher Nolan?
I think, the ultimate Christopher Walken performance that's just chilling is from The Deer Hunter, when he's playing Russian roulette. Yep. And then, of course, you got to go back to when he, of course, is the counsel for Blue Lou Boyle in True Romance. You know, and he's got that great scene with Dennis Hopper, which is one of the great scenes of in movie history.
All right. What's next?
All right. Curtis Lopez. Kevin Feige stated if Black Panther wins Best Picture, he's letting Ryan Coogler do the speech. What an awesome guy.
Yeah, and not completely uncommon today. There have been a number of times that, because what normally traditionally happens is the Best Picture gets announced, the producer, like the producer, not one of the 17 other people with some sort of producer credit, but like the producer or producers go up on stage and they accept it. But we have seen in the last number of years the times that the producers have gone up, but they've also had the director come up and had the director give the speech or accept the award on their behalf or things like that. Now, it's a little bit rare because it's the only time that producers actually get any credit, as if their film wins Best Producer. There's no Academy Award for Best Producer. That's just called Best Picture. Yeah. That you as the producer are ultimately seen responsible for. So a lot of the times they want to have that moment, and I don't blame them for that whatsoever. But yeah, we have seen a number of occasions where it's happened. And if Kevin Feige says if Black Panther wins, he's going to let Coogler do it, I think that's classy. Like, do you think that's appropriate for him to do, Rob?
I think that would be such a classy move. I mean, if you know, it's interesting because Kevin Feige, for all that he's done for the MCU, he's always sort of allowed his filmmakers their due as well. I mean, he's never sitting back. He's not, you know, like David O. Selznick presents Gone with the Wind. It's not Kevin Feige presents the MCU. It's, you know, Kevin Feige hires these great people and he allows James Gunn. Everyone knows the Guardians of the Galaxy was a James Gunn production. Everyone knows Ryan Coogler made Black Panther. I mean, people know Taika Waititi made Thor Ragnarok, and the Russo brothers, how much they've contributed. That's another thing about the MCU that I've always admired. That's why I've always admired what Kevin Feige has built, is that he celebrates his collaborators, and yet everyone also knows that Kevin Feige is the mastermind behind all of this. To me, it's the greatest synergy I've ever seen between a studio and their talent. And it's really inspiring to see, and to hear that Kevin Feige said that is just another example of his stewardship and why it's the best that Hollywood has ever seen.
All right, let's move on. What's next?
Ben Rayner. Hi guys, help settle a debate I'm having with help settle a debate I'm having. My buddy says Ryan Reynolds would have made a good Genie, but I say he's a tad too cynical to be Genie.
No, these guys are called actors, Ben. They play whatever the character calls for. So then you're just reduced to the question is, could Ryan Reynolds have brought that charisma and that charm to that character? I say absolutely yes. Ryan Reynolds isn't going in there to play Ryan Reynolds. He's playing a character. He's going to have a script with dialogue. And the only question becomes, is he as a performer good enough to bring that charm, charisma, wit, all that, and energy to that role? Yeah, he could have been one of them. Again, I'm not saying he's the guy who should have played it. I'm just saying, yeah, I believe he is one of the guys that could have been a pretty good choice. All right, what's next?
Orange Han, thoughts on HBO's Carnival?
I'll be honest with you, Rob. I've never seen Carnival. Have you had a chance to see it?
Yeah, I love Carnival. I mean, it's quirky and weird and dark, and I really enjoyed it. I wish it had gone on longer than it did. It was sort of a short-lived series. It certainly didn't run 8 seasons like Game of Thrones did, but it's got a great creative team as well. And it's worth checking out. I think it only ran 2 seasons.
I think. Well, what was the not Westworld? The one with Ian McShane.
Deadwood.
Deadwood only lasted like 3, didn't it? Like 2 or 3.
Yeah, but they're making a Deadwood movie.
That's right, coming to HBO. Keep your eyes open for it. All right, what's next?
Haskell 420. Why not do a Batman trilogy where first film Bruce is in the academy learning forensics, gets dismayed that no real justice for bad guys, leaves the force, end of the movie becomes Batman. Second film, he does his Batman thing near the end. Yeah, this is near the end, starts beating him to a pulp. Third film, older Batman like Affleck, who takes no shit, etc., then retires.
Well, I mean, okay, you could Haskell. The problem with that scenario that you set up is it completely undoes the true origins nature of Batman. And look, I'm cool with playing around with origins, but there are some things that are so fundamental to who and what those characters are that you can't touch them. And to me, the very notion that, Batman was born in that alley. Batman was born in that alley as he as a child saw his parents murdered. Batman was born, and for all intents and purposes, Bruce Wayne ceased to exist. It is of that nature that I think that at any point Bruce would think, I'm going to become a police officer and do things the right. I just see that as counterintuitive to the nature of who he was, that even as a young man, he dedicates himself to punishing those who had hurt the innocent, to bringing justice to Gotham, to his city, his way. So that whole notion, while very creative thinking, Haskell, very, very creative thinking, to me, it undermines the core essential nature of who that character is and what he is. And on that level, if I was a studio exec and you came in and pitched that idea, I would go, nifty idea, very creative outside the box thinking, but it kind of unravels something that is so fundamental to who Batman is that I don't think we can do it. I don't know, Robert, do you think differently? Is that an approach you could see that they could take for something like that?
I don't know. I mean, I think we've reached a point finally in the world where you don't have to show Batman becoming Batman. I want to see a Batman movie with peak Batman that opens like a James Bond movie with a pre-title sequence where Batman thwarts some crime, kicks some ass, and then it kicks off the rest of the plot. I do not need to see any other movie that shows Batman becoming Batman. I really don't.
At least not right now. Like maybe if look, for instance, if they weren't going to reboot Batman again for another 10 years, right? And then we did Batman again in 10 years' time. Okay, do an origin story. But it reminds me of the way they handled the Hulk, right? They did the one Hulk movie, which I believe it was
Ang Lee.
Yeah, Ang Lee who directed that one. So they did that one, and then they kind of rebooted it again just a couple years later, and they realized we don't need to tell an origin story again. We just told it. So they open with opening credits that kind of tell an origin story through newspaper clippings and headlines that kind of tells the origin story and say, okay, are we all clear now? Do we need to waste any more time on this? No, then let's proceed. This guy's the Hulk. And that's all we needed to know. And then they moved on that way. And so I am completely in agreement with you, Robert. Don't need to do another origin story. Just move on. All right, what's next?
Dimsum05, just finished watching United 93. It reminded me of where I was when it all happened. 9th grade, 3rd period, band class. Where were you?
I was in an airport. True enough.
Ooh.
And there's this picture we have that was on an ABC News special of me standing in the airport. I walked into the airport and everybody was huddled around the television monitors. And I stood there and saw what was unraveling. And the ABC News cameras caught me, and that's kind of become a picture. And I actually repost that picture every 9/11. I put that picture up. I was on my way to the airport. We were getting in the car and driving to the airport to travel across the country for a funeral, actually, and heard about an accident of a plane flying into one of the World Trade Center buildings. It's like, oh my gosh, it's horrible. By the time we got to the airport, it wasn't an accident anymore. And that's when the reality of it all hit. And that's where I was. I was staying. Clearly, my flight got canceled that day, as all flights did. And that's where I was. And I will never forget where I was. What about you, Rob? Where were you when that all happened?
I had pulled an all-nighter. I had all of my documentary material due to MGM for the Usual Suspects special edition DVD. So I had to deliver 6 texted and 6 text-less masters to the studio. So I was getting up every 2 hours and switching tapes and setting my alarm and would lay back all the documentary material. And I was on my second to last tape when I woke up and I saw all the workers that were renovating a Circuit City outside my edit bay window. And they were all staring at the TV. And I walked out because Starbucks had just opened and I was going to get a cup of coffee. And I'm like, what happened? And they were watching the smoke coming out of the first tower that was hit. And I went and got the coffee and came back and was just looking at this whole thing. And I saw the second plane hit on footage live. And we were all just stunned, like, what are we seeing? And then they closed all the studios and everything closed. And it was this, honestly, it was the most scared I've ever been in my entire life. Mm-hmm. Because I was like, are we at war? Like, nobody remembers how, well, I mean, if you were there, how nobody really knew what the hell was happening. Then the Pentagon was hit. Mm-hmm. You know, then United 93 disappeared and 2 planes had hit the World Trade Center. I mean, I can't imagine a more a beginning of an apocalyptic, whether it was World War III or battles. I mean, who knew what was going to happen? But I was terrified. It was the most scared I've ever been. I lived through the LA riots. I wasn't that scared, but this scared me to death.
Where were you, Ash, when that all happened?
I was in a biology class, and they turned on the TVs, and we all saw the second plane hit, and we were all terrified. I'm from Philadelphia, so everyone just ran out of the classroom. It was chaos. Everyone started calling their family members. I had sisters in New York, so it was really terrifying. I feel like we all just still to this day have just such a visceral PTSD from that. So yeah, I mean, I haven't seen that movie, but I'm sure it's gonna be a hard one to watch for everybody.
Yeah. All right, what's next?
Maja Sophie Norby. Just wanted to mention some of my all-time favorite shows: Spartacus, Mindhunter, You, and Black Sails. Everyone should give them a try.
Well, obviously, Spartacus is in my top 3 favorite shows of all time. One of the stars of it, my friend Aaron Cummings, who's been on the show a couple of times. It's in my top 3. Love that. Really enjoyed season 1 of Mindhunter. Really enjoyed it.
So good.
I have never seen Black Sails, though. And I've had several people tell me that Black Sails is pretty good, but I've never seen a single episode. Have you guys seen any of Black Sails?
I saw a little bit of it. I had friends who worked on that show. It's pretty cool. I mean, I that's a show I want to sit down and catch up on. And I would watch that from the beginning to the end because it was very impressive, especially from a production value standpoint. It was really cool.
I loved Mindhunter. It's just such a slow, smart show. And I feel like I haven't seen really anything like it before. I don't know. Yeah,
it was very different. All right, what's next?
Dimsum05. If y'all had a movie trivia match, who would win?
Ooh. I mean, a lot would depend on what were the parameters of the questions.
I would lose.
I think if it was a straight up, oh God, I don't know.
John and I have actually competed together in a trivia contest.
Yes, we did.
And we won. You can find it on the internet.
We were undefeated, you and I.
You guys have to come with me on Mondays. Shoot.
Yeah, I mean, hey, we'll be there. Because I think there are some areas, and this is why I love doing shows with Robert, is because I think there are some areas I'm a little sharper on. I think there's a bunch of areas that Robert's sharper on.
Totally agree.
And I think I'm not trying to sidestep the question. I just think it would really depend on what would be the parameters of such a trivia contest. It would be hard to put money against Robert Meyer Burnett, though. Under any kind of movie trivia contest, it would be hard to put money against Robert Meyer Burnett, but it would be interesting. It would be.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends too. I mean, I'm the old man screaming, "Get off my lawn!" So it depends. If I went below a certain date, I could. But really, people have strengths. I mean, I know, John, as I said yesterday on my own podcast, and you confirmed it last night when we talked on the phone. You're a song and dance man. You might be able to sneak in the musical category and smoke me in any kind of. I didn't know you used to play in a YouTube cover band, and I didn't know that you did music for your own feature. I mean, I very impressive, and I think there's areas where you would take me out. Then again, somebody might drop a Star Trek category and you'd be destroyed.
Oh yeah, then I'd just be flopping like a fish in a boat. All right, what's next?
African Prince, 8th grade, getting recognition. Loved that movie.
Yeah, I finally got around to watching. I was very late to the party on that one, and I had a really good time with it. Rob, did you have a chance to see 8th grade?
I haven't seen it yet, but I really want to see it. I know, and it won a WGA award for best original screenplay.
Yep.
And a friend of mine is deeply, deeply in love with the creator of that movie, and she's constantly going on about that guy as her soulmate and stuff. And I don't know much about him, but it was impressive. I did watch his acceptance speech at the WGA Awards online, and everyone's talking about how great 8th grade is. That might be a Blu-ray I'm going to have to pick up, John.
And by the way, if you had asked me before, do I think 8th grade has any chance at anything at the odds? Well, I don't know. It's kind of it won the WGA. I mean, it's got to have something going for it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. All right, what's next?
I just think it's an important movie for every parent to show their kid, whether their kid is a shy kid, a popular one. It's just, it's also just good, to watch even if you don't have kids, because you just feel so nostalgic when you're watching it, and you feel for her so much. That pool scene, I feel it. All right, Stubble McShave, F, nice beaver. J, thanks. I just had it stuffed.
That is from that's Leslie Nielsen as
Frank Drebin.
As Frank Drebin, and what's the name of the series again? Why am I drawing
Naked Gun?
It was Naked Gun 2, I believe. Naked 2.5, or whichever one it was called. With I think it was Priscilla Presley.
Yeah, I think
was
so,
climbing
too.
the ladder, and Nielsen's just looking up her dress and says, out of nowhere, "Nice beaver," and then she comes down the ladder with a stuffed beaver. She goes, "Oh, thank you. I just had it stuffed," and that's the line.
I remember that. Yeah.
That's a deep cut, Stubble. That's a deep cut. That's going back a little bit, but I remember that joke because I was juvenile. All right, let's just take a couple more here.
Murray Reich, watch both Shaft films. While Roundtree's performance is great, I prefer Sam Jackson one better. To me, the 1971 film came out of a different era, so it felt different.
And then he follows up. He keeps going.
Oh, but the Shaft theme song is great.
Shut your mouth.
Shut your mouth. I can't. I just don't like the Samuel Jackson Shaft. I'm just not into it. So, and that's part of the reason why I'm not getting too excited about this one. But I'll tell you what, Robert, I can't remember which movie I was in seeing, but I was with a bunch of people, and Ann was there too just recently, and the Shaft trailer played, and she thought it looked hilarious. She thought it looked awesome, and I'm like, really? So Robert's not crazy? Is that? So yeah. So apparently people are really responding well to the Shaft trailer. Maybe it's just because I didn't like the last one so much, but I guess people are responding well to it.
Yeah, I mean, look, as I've said before, I'm a huge fan of the blaxploitation films of the early 70s. Everything from Black Caesar to Slaughter to Shaft to Coffee Brown to Coffee and Foxy Brown. And I just love that era of that dirty, scuzzy New York City where the crime is rampant, and a guy like Shaft can come along with Isaac Hayes singing a theme song and he kicks ass. And I can't believe they brought Shaft back once, but the fact that it's like the Infinity War of Shaft movies. I can't wait.
It's like the Infinity War of Shaft movies. All right, let's move on. Let's do 2 more questions today.
Okay, Bruce Gordon, The Dirt trailer. It's Netflix. Do you hate it?
Well, I mean, I haven't seen it yet because I think it just dropped just shortly after we got on here and started talking. So I haven't seen it yet. Obviously, I approach any film that's going direct to Netflix with a little bit of skepticism, and maybe that'll start to change. So I haven't seen the trailer yet. But yeah, even the garbage movies on Netflix, they tend to put up some pretty good trailers. So, and this movie is a movie we've been talking about for 5 or 6 years. They've been trying to get this thing going for maybe longer, maybe a decade or more. They've been trying to get this movie going. So we'll see how it turns out.
Triple Frontier, though, that movie looks like it kicks ass.
I love the trailer to Triple Frontier. Again, skeptical because it's going straight to Netflix, but the trailer was great, and I'm really excited to see it. All right, final question of the day.
Jordan Benjamin, do you think the Knights of Ren will turn on Kylo in episode 9? I think Matt Smith could be a knight. He finds out Kylo killed Snoke. It would cause great drama. Would Hux snitch on Kylo to the Knights?
That's a whole lot of ifs, ands, and buts in there, Jordan. I would say this. I don't think that. No, I actually had somebody else write in on one of my open mics the other day, ask me a very similar question. Do I think that one of the big key drama points of Star Wars Episode 9 could be the Knights of Ren turning on Kylo? I don't think so, because one of the things was Snoke referred to Kylo as the master of the Knights of Ren. He's the master of the Knights of Ren. They're his guys. And killing Snoke, guess what? That's what the dark side does. The whole premise of the dark side is about, I mean, particularly with the Sith in particular, but like the whole idea of the rule of two is one to have the power, one to crave it. The whole order of procession with the dark side is that you're supposed to learn under a master, and then at some point when you're ready, and if you're good enough, you kill your master. That's the way of things in the dark side. So I don't think, number one, Kyle's already the master of the Knights of Ren, so I don't think they're going to go anywhere with that. But number two, even if the Knights find out he killed Snoke, oh, so you did what we are taught we're supposed to do. You did what you do. What would you say it is you do here? I kill my master. That's the way of things. So I think it would be very inconsistent for them to go into episode 9 and say the Knights of Ren turn on Kylo because they found out he killed Snoke. Yeah, but that's what he was supposed to do. So I don't know, Rob, like, do you think that could be a key point in the film? Or because I think the Knights of Ren will play a role in this movie, but I just don't see that being a part of it.
But we've seen the Knights of Ren in a couple of shots.
Yeah.
Like they haven't been a force. Like Kylo Ren, why isn't he surrounded by his cadre of Knights of Ren if they're important at all? Where are they? Like, what are they doing? And are they off doing knightly things? Sith Knight stuff? I don't know. I mean, to bring in the Knights of Ren, that's a whole movie. And I don't think we might get a glimpse of them, because what are they going to make this movie about after all? But I don't think it's going to be a big deal. I think the conflict is going to be with our central character. I think Luke Skywalker is going to come back and is going to have to fight it out.
Oh, God, I would love that. Okay, I said there was only 2 more, but let's just take a couple more, because we've got a few more here waiting. So let's just go through a few more.
Sure. Enrique M., what are your thoughts on the Black Cauldron?
I liked Black Cauldron. I think there are some people like consider it in kind of like the classic territory, but not me personally. What about you, Rob?
Yeah, I don't know. Like you.
Fair enough.
I don't know. I don't have much of an opinion. I'm still laughing about the next question. I'm sorry.
Oh, I haven't seen the next question. All right, what's next then?
Suthius85.
I like the Black Cauldron, though, just so you know.
My daily routine consists of eggs with ketchup, morning prayers for
God.
Han, sparring with Dom in my Iron Spider suit, dance session with Philippe to the tune of Tango Shalom, Happy Feet, and end with getting my Jibby Filthy on.
Yeah, just you get Ghibli. Yeah, like
It's
Will Smith
Ghibli.
is getting Ghibli. What a horrible morning, Suthius. But saying prayers for Han and doing a dance to Tango Shalom. By the way, I have still not seen Tango Shalom, Rob.
Yeah, you didn't come to my screening, but we're gonna have more. I just finished all the effect shots. It's not an effect shot movie, but screen burn-ins and things like that are completed. So hopefully we're gonna be going into color timing and mixing. So that would be good.
So Suthius just managed to squeeze in a whole lot of the cliches here on the John Campea Show into one oversized message. Well done, Suthius. Yeah, I think you just about got them all. Okay, what's next?
I like that Felipe is now a real thing. You have a visualization of him.
Yep. Somebody actually made a real physical toy of Felipe, the sentient dancing microphone. So, yeah. All right, what's next?
Kevin Brown, number one solution for a 3-hour runtime controversy. Why wouldn't Marvel release a 15 to 20-minute prologue short film to Endgame, cutting the final time to 180 minutes? They could sell those.
Then I think Kevin picks that up down.
Great. Okay. Rights to YouTube Premium Netflix could contain deleted or inconsequential footage to the major plot, no major spoilers, but act as a huge marketing tool, and they make more money. Win-win.
I'll tell you what, like my first reaction to that is no. Like that's because now you've broken up the movie. Like some people complain about having to take you can't have an intermission. You can't have a 7-minute break. Okay, well, how about an 8-day break? So you're going to watch the first 15 to 20 minutes of the movie and then take an 8-day break and then jump back into the film? So on that level, I think it's a little extreme. But I'll say this. I think there is some merit to it because on the one hand, it would be a tremendous marketing tool. I mean, of that, there's no doubt, because you put out the first 15 minutes of Avengers Endgame. People are going to eat that up. And if it's good and it's strong, but then the question is, are the first 15 minutes of the film the strongest part of the film that's going to sell the rest of your movie? I don't know, maybe or not. And then there's the whole thing about now you've broken up the film. So I don't know. My initial reaction was very negative, but I don't think I'm feeling tremendously negative about it now. Like I think there could be. I don't know, Rob. What do you think about this?
Well, okay. Avengers Endgame has supplanted a lifelong fantasy I had about spending the night with Farrah Fawcett Majors circa 1976 Logan's Run.
Of course.
God rest her soul. There was that lifelong fantasy, and then there is my Avengers Endgame fantasy, which has supplanted that. I don't want to be interrupted. When that movie starts, I just want to enjoy the entire experience uninterrupted. I don't want to watch 15 minutes and have to stop. I want to sit down and I want that full 3-hour theatrical experience. I want my Diet Coke in my hand. I want my giant tub of popcorn. I don't want to get up. I don't want anyone to talk. I just want to sit there and have my mind blown. So I don't want to see anything about this movie except in a big, giant theater, preferably in IMAX and in 3D.
Do you think though there would be benefit from a marketing standpoint? Do you think that would get a lot of people like riled up and get maybe more people out opening weekend than even they're already going to?
No, because then I think people would have less of a need because they will have seen something of it already. Maybe. And I want that I had more fun in the movie theater when I saw Avengers Infinity War than I've had in years because I knew nothing about it. And I sat down and literally from that whole opening sequence on the Asgardian ship, then it switches to the Sanctum Sanctorum, and then they're fighting Ebony Maw and the Black Order off in the streets of New York City. Then they're in a spaceship. I mean, I was losing my mind through that entire movie. I couldn't believe what I was watching. My childhood was right before my eyes, in addition to my adolescence, which wasn't so great. And then everything else that's ever happened in my life was there, right there. And it was all in that movie that I wanted so badly to love. And it was better than I thought it was going to be. And man, I loved it.
Well said.
Watch your keyboard, Rob. Watch your keyboard.
Yeah, don't hit the keyboard again. All right, what's next?
Andy Brake. Hi, John and gang, all the way from Sarnia, Ontario. I love you all. Cineplex has been taking my scene points away because I use Cinema. Totally bunked. Totally bunked since they get paid anyway. Your opinion?
My opinion on this is very, very, very well stated. And it even came when like the dirty backhanded movie pass company was doing it, and I thought the exact same thing. Movie theaters, if you have somebody come to your movie theater who is there and the way they paid for their ticket is with a movie club pass of some sort, be it movie pass or be it Cinemia, whatever, the underlying foundation of those particular clubs is that the movie theater is getting its money. The movie theater is getting not only their money, they are getting full ticket price. So when you buy your ticket for, I don't know, what movie did you say? It doesn't matter what movie. When you buy your ticket for Lego Movie 2, and it's a $17 ticket, if you use your Movie Pass or your Cinemia card, that movie theater is getting paid their $17. You're getting your $17. For any theater chain, and this includes AMC, this would include Regal, this would definitely include Cineplex, who have been acting really shady the last couple of years. Because when I left Canada, I love Cineplex more than anything else. And every time I go back, it seems like they're acting more and more shady. For you as a company to then go, oh, we'll still take the money, but we're going to use this as an excuse to not grant the rewards to our customers that we've promised them. Now, this would be a totally different situation. If somehow, by using MoviePass or Cinemia, the theater's only getting half of what they normally get. If you had bought a $15 ticket, they would have got $15, but by using Cinemia, they actually only get $8. So then I would be understanding of the notion, the guys, that okay, then we need to compensate for this, so we're not going to grant rewards to the people who are members of our rewards program. But there is simply no excuse. Somebody living in Canada, take a clip of this, send this to those morons over at Cineplex, and tell them exactly this. You have no reason, you have no excuse to withhold from your customers that you treat like trash. You have no excuse, no valid reason to withhold from your customers, your loyal customers who are part of your loyalty rewards program, the rewards that they should be getting when they bring unto you the full ticket price for a movie being spent. You are using this as a loophole. You're using this as an excuse to undermine your customers and to take advantage of the people who keep you in business. And there's no excuse for it. And you should be ashamed of yourselves. And again, there are circumstances here that I would get it and I would understand. But if you're getting the full money, it makes no difference to you whether I come to your theater and give you $17 out of my wallet, or if I come to your theater and my mom's with me and my mom hands me the $17 to then hand to you, or if I pull up my Cinemia card and Cinemia hands $17 to you. The end result is you're getting your $17. Don't take advantage, don't loophole, don't screw over the people that keep you in business, particularly the people who are members of your quote-unquote loyalty program. Stop acting like such dicks. Anyway.
Well, I'm bummed I wasn't sitting next to you to feel that rant.
I
missed that.
Just pisses me off when these theaters that we are all fans of and we all get to go to see our movies at, they rely on the loyalty of their customers. And I don't expect them just to give customers free shit for nothing. But when stuff like this happens, I don't care if it's AMC, I don't care if it's Regal, I don't care if it's Cineplex. It just bothers me when we're all trying to keep the movie-going experience alive, and the biggest enemy of keeping the movie-going experience alive is the place we're supposed to be going to see the movies. It's just asinine. It's just absolutely asinine. Anyway, with that said, we probably should wrap it up now. That'll do it for us today, guys, for this episode of the John Campea Show. For everybody who has outstanding questions left there, from Marie, Patrick Conway, Michael Morgan, Bennett Hardy, all the way down. Tons of you guys still have questions sitting there to be answered. Do not worry. I'm going to gather up all these questions. I got a whole ton of companion stuff I got to do. Your questions will be answered in a video that is either going up today or tomorrow. I got a companion video going up today. I may get to these ones or not. If not, your questions that you sent will be answered in a video within the next 24 hours. Just keep your eyes open for it, and it will be there. So thank you for sending in all those questions, guys. I, of course, want to thank the people who are here with me. First of all, starting with the one and the only, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, where can people find you online?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at BurnettRM, find me on Instagram at RMBurnett, or find me on my own YouTube channel, The Burnettwork, or go to my website, theburnettwork.net.
And, of course, the wonderful Ashley Whalen. Ashley, where can people find you?
You guys can find me on my Twitter at AshterTech1, or Instagram is Ashley Whalen. It's ASHLEYYWHELAN.
And, of course, you guys can follow me simply on Instagram or on Twitter, just at John Campea. That will do it for us, guys. Thanks so much for being here and being a part of the show today. My name's John Campea, and until next time. Bye-bye.